13-year-old babe bought a burst-down old car for her adopted atramentous dad. What they activate central afflicted their lives forever. Walter Booker, a man who had taken an accouchement no one abroad wanted, thought his activity was accomplished to back his Uber car died. But with annihilation more than bill and channeled bills, Emily and her ancestors aching calm $50 to buy him a bones that almost captivated together. Walter climbed inside, analytic for salvageable parts, and froze. His hand struck article abundant below the seat, wrapped, hidden, and gleaming. The children leaned closer, hearts pounding, as Walter boring bald-headed the acquisition that would adapt not aloof their fortune, but their legacy. Before we go any further, we'd adulation for you to hit that subscribe button. Your abutment agency the apple to us, and it helps us accompany you alike more powerful stories. Now, let's begin. Walter Booker wasn't the affectionate of man the world celebrated. He never made headlines, never endemic a mansion, and never sat in a Bend office. Instead, his bequest lived in the quiet footsteps that abounding his bashful home. Children who had no one else, accouchement who had been larboard behind. He had adopted so many over the years that neighbors lost count. Some were black, some white, others Latino or mixed. Strangers would whisper, "Why booty on added a back, he already struggles." But Walter alone smiled. To him, family wasn't abstinent in bloodlines or bank accounts. It was abstinent in how many children you banned to let blooper through the cracks. Still, affection didn't pay the bills. His buoy had consistently been exhausted up Toyota. The car he collection for Uber continued hours into the night. But when the agent assuredly gave out, silence felt abundant over their home. No more rides meant no added abiding income. Every bill on the kitchen adverse looked taller. Every blow from his youngest felt heavier. One evening, as Walter sat on the acrid balustrade accomplished with calloused easily apprenticed together, Emily, his oldest adopted daughter, watched him closely. She was a lone 13, but the lines of anguish in her face fabricated her look older. Abaft her, the adolescent ones huddled, whispering, casual crumpled bills and a part bill amid their palms. By the time they stepped forward, their little accumulation, almost aching $50. Emily captivated the baby array tight, her voice abashed as she said, "Dad gave us a home. Now, it's our turn." They pulled their bill calm to buy what no one abroad wanted. A burst bottom-ward old car alone at a delivery yard. To outsiders, it was annihilation but blight and faded paint. But to those children, it was hope. Article their ancestor could strip for parts. Article that many wouldn't accord up. A back they wheeled to the driveway and told Walter it was theirs. He didn't allege at first. His chest tightened, eyes glistening. He laid a Asperus Duke on the car's awning as if it were sacred. It wasn't about the car. It was about them. Accouchement who had once been burst themselves, now giving back with the little they had. And in that quiet night, below the dim afterglow of a blaze balustrade light, Walter realized something. Alike in their poverty, they were richer than most. The old car sat in their driveway like a wounded animal. Its acrylic was chipped down to bald metal in places, windows fogged with dust, one annoy billowing into the dirt. It wasn't a count acclamation to anyone else. But to Walter's children, it was affidavit that they hadn't accustomed up on him. Every morning afore school, they'd accumulate abreast it. Some wiping the windshield with beat rags. Others running their fingers beyond the awning as if acid abroad at shame. Neighbors passed by and befuddled their heads. Two older men beyond the artery muttered while sipping their coffee. That Booker's crumbling his life. All those kids, and now a clutter car. What's he thinking? His acquaintance chuckled. Man can't alike augment himself. Adulation don't pay the mortgage. But the accouchement heard none of that. Their apple was focused on Walter. They bethink the nights he skipped commons so they could eat. The mornings he absolved them to academy even when his anxiety acted. The times he picked them up off sidewalks aback. No one else cared. For them, this seed was nothing compared to what he had given. Emily had burst her aback coffer for this. Daniel, aloof 7, had handed over the bill he adored for candy. Maria gave up the dress she'd capital for her birthday, trading it in for a couple more dollars. Aback, Walter ran his hand over the car's hood. He acquainted every sacrifice bustling central its rust. He wanted to acquaint them it was too much, that they shouldn't accept done it. But the words bent in his throat, their wide, alert eyes silenced him. So he went to work. Every black afterwards his odd jobs, landscaping, handyman repairs, anything that paid a few bills. He returned to the car with his apparatus set. The driveway became his workshop. Grease smeared his hands, diaphoresis decrepit his shirt, and the air agitated the sharp scent of oil. The accouchement gathered around, watching as if he were rebuilding not aloof an engine, but their future. At night, aback the assignment light flickered and moths circled the bulb. Walter sometimes paused, his heart clenched at the anticipation of declining them. But again he'd attending at Emily, sitting cross-legged on the pavement, notebook in hand, abstraction account for what the car could be. And he'd apprehend little Daniel buzz to his sister. One day, Dad's activity to drive us all to the park again. In those moments, Walter found strength. He didn't see a burst man anymore. He saw accouchement who believed in him abundant to accord their aftermost pennies, and that was abundant to accumulate him turning the wrench, bolt afterwards bolt, abysmal into the night. The nights grew longer and the air agitated the Arctic of autumn. Walter formed through it all, crouched inside the alveolate carapace of that car. The children generally sat in an amphitheater on the driveway, administration hushed amusement or trading belief while he tinkered. They didn't apprehend those hours mattered more to him than gold. Hours area they were together, apprenticed by achievement rather than fear. But one evening, something shifted. Walter leaned back from the engine, wiping his forehead with a rag. His easily searched below the driver's seat for a part bolt he anticipation had rolled away. Instead of air-conditioned metal or dust, his fingers brushed against something solid, article that didn't belong. He paused. The driveway buzzed with silence, burst alone by the creak of the night insects. His dupe traced it again. Asperous edges, heavy, adherent deep into the seat's frame. Curious, he tugged. The article resisted at first. He grunted, affairs harder. With one last jerk, it came free, captivated in layers of oily cloth. A aberrant weight abounding his palms, added than any car allotment should be. Emily's articulation bankrupted the quiet. "Dad, what's that?" Walter didn't answer immediately. His chest anchored as he slowly bawled abroad the cloth. Dust lifted into the air, and below the grime, a addled chicken beam bent the work light. His animation caught. It wasn't brass. It wasn't clutter metal. It was unmistakable solid gold. For a moment, he aloof stared, clumsy to move. His mind ran wild. Was it stolen? Forgotten? Who hid it here? His easily trembled as he turned the bar, the accouchement gathering close, their eyes advanced and reflecting the glow. One of the adolescent boys whispered, "It looks like treasure." Walter didn't speak. He couldn't. He felt the weight not aloof in his palms, but in his soul. Years of hunger, of patching holes in shoes, of angry to keep their lights on. Suddenly, all those nights apprenticed adjoin this single bar. The children's choir rose in wonder, but Walter backward quiet, staring at the gold. He wasn't cerebration about riches. He was cerebration about responsibility, about whether this was a blessing or a test. In the distance, neighbor ailing through their blinds, curious about the murmurs, blubbering to another, that Booker's consistently got some crazy scheme. Apparently clutter, he's pretending is account something. They didn't know. They couldn't know. Walter sat arctic in the afterglow of the work light, gold aflame adjoin his calloused hands. And for the aboriginal time in years, he acquainted the arena below him shift. Activity had aloof changed, but he didn't yet apperceive how far. The gold bar sat on the kitchen table that night, its heavy afterglow acid through the dim light of their bashful home. The children circled it with awe, whispering as though the ability alarm it away. Walter sat at the arch of the table, elbows resting on the wood, button apprenticed into his hands. He hadn't announced abundance since bringing it inside. The weight of possibility apprenticed bottomward on him. He had seen quick fortunes ruin men before, neighbors who stumbled into money only to abatement into ruin faster than before. But aback he looked about the table. He saw wide-eyed faces abounding not with greed, but with trust. They weren't asking for riches. They were allurement for a future. The abutting morning, Walter carried the bar captivated in an old towel to a trusted assurance adjudicator downtown. The man's eyes widened the moment the towel fell open. He angrily the piece under the beaming light, broke it, waited, again leaned back slowly. "It's real," the man said.
"Pure."
"You're sitting on a fortune." Walter's animation hitched, but he alone nodded, tucking the bar back into the towel.
He didn't advertise it. Not then.
He absolved home through the cool air, affection pounding. It wasn't about cashing in quickly. It was about what came next. How to assure his children, and their gift. Weeks anesthetized and small changes began to ripple through their home. Walter Activate means to discreetly convert allotment of the gold into funds, just abundant to pay debts, adjustment the leaking roof, and accumulate the abdomen full. For the aboriginal time in years, the refrigerator hummed with fresh groceries, and the accouchement came home to meals that didn't accept to be stretched thin. But Walter didn't stop there. He opened accumulation accounts in anniversary child's name, baby deposits that would grow into articles solid aback they were older. He battened with a financial advisor, his calloused easily gripping the pen deeply as he active affidavit that secured assurance funds. The neighbors began to notice. The already crumbling abode had new paint. The balustrade ablaze no longer flickered, and the accouchement wore shoes that absolutely fit. Gossip floated over fences. Booker charge accept activate himself a rich donor. Nah, apparently government aid. He couldn't accept pulled this off himself. Walter heard the whispers, but never corrected them. Let them wonder. The truth wasn't endemic to hold. It belonged to his children. Through it all, he kept working. He still best up handyman jobs, still collection rides aback the old Toyota sputtered aback to activity with the help of salvaged parts. He capital his children to apperceive the gold was a blessing, not a crutch. And every night as he anesthetized their rooms, he heard new sounds. The blemish of pencils, as Emily studied late. The amusement of the younger ones who know best feared the dark. The bendable babble of dreams spoken aloud. Gold hadn't aloof abounding their bellies. It had adequate something deeper. Dignity, security, hope. Months rolled into seasons, and the little family's activity looked different. Not extravagant, not flashy, but stable, something they hadn't accepted in years. Bills were paid on time, aliment filled their shelves, and the accouchement grew in confidence. No best accustomed the shame of actuality, the poor kids on the block. Walter, however, never forgot area it began with a scattering of bills scraped from tiny award and a burst car that everyone abroad would accept abandoned. That memory advised added on his affection than the gold itself. One Sunday afternoon, he stood al fresco their home while the children played tag beyond the yard. Neighbors aggregate nearby, watching, whispering amid themselves. A few finally admitted, maybe we were wrong about him. That man he aloft added than kids. He aloft hope. Walter angry to his porch, eyes comatose on the old car. He hadn't scrapped it. Instead, he left it there as a monument. Blight and all a reminder of the moment his children believed in him added than he believed in himself. Aback bodies asked about the sudden change. Walter would smile quietly and say it wasn't gold that saved us. It was love, the affectionate you can't put a amount on. For his children, the assignment sank added than any inheritance. They saw with their own eyes that miracles don't consistently come wrapped in light. Sometimes they hide beneath burst seats in an abandoned car, waiting for easily adventurous abundant and hearts authentic abundant to bear them. And so the man already alveolate as a struggling father became an attribute of something greater. A man whose bequest wasn't the gold he found, but the ancestors he built. And that's how one burst bottomward car bought with adulation agitated ancestors from struggle to legacy. If this adventure moved you, don't aloof annal away. Hit subscribe and accompany us for added powerful stories like this one. And remember, Sometimes the Aboriginal sacrifices hide the greatest treasures.